My fiance asked for a break due to a new guy, so I left and moved cities. She's now stalking me. Her parents apologized, but I refused to talk. I'm 34 years old and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong for refusing to speak with my ex Sarah, who is 29. There's a lot of history here and I'll try to explain it fully. In mid-2022 I met Sarah at work and we hit it off right away. I soon fell for her and we began dating shortly after. However, Sarah ended our relationship early on due to a little disagreement. To make matters worse, she caused a commotion in front of everyone at work. I was sad, but I did not want to quit my job at first. Eventually I realized I still had feelings for her and seeing her every day was too hard. That's when I decided to quit and look for a new job. We lived close together, so we ran into each other regularly over the next few months. We began conversing again, but despite my feelings for her I couldn't bring myself to consider getting back together. I was terribly saddened by what she had done. After a few months she told me she regretted ending our relationship over something so petty. She stated that doing it in front of everyone was terrible and she had been reflecting about it ever since. She appeared sincerely sorry and I could see she meant it. I asked if she wanted to give our relationship another chance because I believed her apologies were genuine. She consented and by early 2023 we were formally reunited. 1 year later everything was going well. We discussed marriage and constructing a future together, which made me feel prepared to take the next step. I decided to surprise her with a proposal and began working additional hours to pay for a house so we could get married. Not long after, I didn't tell her why I was working so hard since I wanted it to be a surprise. Then out of nowhere she requested a break. I was taken aback, and when I questioned why, she refused to explain. Around the same time I noticed she had been talking non-stop about a new person at her employment, but then she stopped mentioning him completely, which made me suspicious, perplexed and hurt. I contacted one of my close friends, Emily, not her real name, who together with her partner continued to work at the same company as Sarah. I complained to Emily about what was going on and asked if she knew anything. She replied she didn't because she worked in a different department, but she promised to check. Emily followed up with me a few days later. She told me Sarah had been feeling distant from me lately, especially since I was working longer hours and not getting out as often. Emily stated that some of Sarah's coworkers had encouraged her to take a break, believing I wasn't treating her well and wasn't as involved in the relationship. On top of that, they were attempting to link her with a new guy at work, claiming they'd be a better match. I told Emily about my plans to propose and purchase a home for Sarah and me. That was why I had been working so much. I wanted to surprise her with something large. Sarah called me after about 2 weeks and suggested we meet. I agreed, but I made it clear that I needed an explanation for why she wanted a break before we could talk about anything else. She mentioned how detached I had appeared, adding it made her feel like I wasn't as invested in the relationship anymore. I told her that if she had just spoken with me about it she would have realized there was a reason for my actions, but it didn't matter anymore. She then mentioned the new guy at her employment. I said his name before she could and she was astonished, wondering how I knew. I assured her that I was not an idiot. I noted how she abruptly stopped talking about him after constantly bringing him up. She said she'd never cheated on me. I said that hunting for someone better at the first hint of difficulties may be considered cheating by some. At that point I informed her I did not want to hear anything else she had to say. It didn't matter if she wanted to reconcile, I was ending my relationship with her regardless. The split left me extremely hurt. I couldn't bear being in the same town, so I requested my employer for a move and used the money I'd saved for the project to start over in a new city. While speaking with Emily, the friend I had previously vented to, she apologized to me. She stated that she had made a mistake by informing Sarah about my plans to propose and purchase a home. Emily stated Sarah burst into tears after hearing that. Emily's candor was welcomed, but it did not influence the outcome. By mid-December last year I had returned to my hometown to celebrate Christmas and New Year's with my family. Some friends wanted to throw a party to bring everyone together because many of us, including myself, had moved away and were only returning for the holidays. Sarah also received an invitation. We barely spoke that night, just a short hi in passing. I glanced at her and noticed her smiling while speaking with a group of women. That smile recalled so many memories. I realized that seeing her smile made me feel exactly the same way I felt the first time I saw it. I wondered to myself, how screwed up am I that I still feel this way? Despite those residual emotions, I was still saddened and extremely upset by the way things had ended. Looking back, I've started to resent myself. I should have paid closer attention to how she felt. I could have informed her about the additional work and why I was doing it. Perhaps things could have turned out differently. Later that evening, one of my friends revealed that Sarah's relationship with the guy at work had only lasted a few months. After the holidays I intended to return to the city where I now dwell. My vacation ended on January 6th, so I planned to go on Friday. That way I'd have Saturday to tidy up at home and prepare for the week ahead and Sunday to unwind before returning to work. Before I departed, one of my buddies from home contacted me. He stated he had a favor to request on behalf of someone else and warned me that I would not like it. I could already feel my stomach dropping. He then told me it was Sarah. She was moving to the city where I live to work for a relative's company and she needed a ride. He asked if I could take her. I didn't think about it before saying no. The thought of being locked in a car with her for hours was too much to take. It would have been excruciatingly embarrassing just like the party, and I wasn't prepared to put myself through it. He insisted that Sarah and I talk, but I was having none of it. I returned home and last week I went for a run. When I stopped to relax briefly at a park, I heard a familiar voice say hi. It was Sarah. She attempted to start a conversation by asking how I was and emphasizing that we didn't get to converse during the party. But I cut her off, stating I didn't want to speak with her. She told me not to be like that and that we should have a chat, but I declined. She questioned how I could still dislike her after over a year and everything we'd been through, but I told her it wasn't resentment. I was quite truthful. I explained that thinking about her, talking about her, or even seeing her still hurts a lot, which is why I couldn't talk to her. She stated that this was exactly why we needed to communicate. I didn't understand the point, so I simply walked away. Sarah has tried to approach me twice since then, and both times I have turned her down. Some of my pals believe I'm being overly harsh and should talk to her for closure. Others argue that torturing her for the rest of her life is unacceptable, but that is not the point of this. I have no anger or ill thoughts against her anymore. I admit that I share some of the blame, but it still stings. I can't talk to her because it's like reopening an old wound that has never completely healed. So Ida, why are you refusing to talk to her? After reading the comments, the original poster thanked everyone for their advice. The OP simply wants to explain things better. OP explained that their friends were not contacting or emailing them telling them to talk to Sarah. It was simply the perspective of some of them when the matter was raised. Update. Hello everyone, I wanted to provide an update and appreciate everyone for their thoughts. I read over each comment, and while I didn't react to everyone, it was only because I didn't have anything to say. I'm grateful to everyone who expressed their opinions. It's been quite helpful. After reading everything and thinking about it, I've chosen to adhere to my choice not to speak to Sarah. I neglected to include it in my original post, but I did notify a few people that I blocked her everywhere after we broke up for the second time. Over the last 2 days it appears that her insistence has backfired. Some of our shared acquaintances, including those who first suggested I talk to her, have become tired of her continuous attempts to reach me. They appear to have turned against her as a result of this. Emily, the friend I was venting to at the time, posted about stalkers on social media 3 days ago. She did not name Sarah, but many people understood what she meant. I've also seen a few comments on my initial post that suggest Sarah was stalking me. Her job in the same city as well as her serendipitous arrival in the park support this theory. For what it's worth, I know her uncle owns a company here, so that could be the real reason she moved, but that's not my concern and I'm not going to investigate it. Things have been quieter. Friends have abandoned the subject and Sarah hasn't attempted to contact them again. That was until yesterday. I watched the UFC event with some coworkers. When it ended, I was on my way to my car when my phone rang. A mutual friend called. She stated she had spoken with Sarah and asked if she could relay a message. I sighed and urged her to get it done quickly. Sarah just stated that she knows why I don't want to talk to her. She vowed she wouldn't contact us again, but she still believes we should communicate. She said the door was open if I ever wanted to discuss. I told my buddy I didn't have a message to return and begged her not to bring Sarah up again in our chats. If what Sarah mentioned is correct, it is a relief, but I am not holding my breath. I wouldn't be surprised if she tried something different. Perhaps she believes that giving me space will compel me to approach her, but it will not. That chapter of my life is currently closed. I simply want to focus on myself. I doubt I will be dating anyone anytime soon. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that I should get to know individuals better before committing to a relationship. I've also been thinking about how loosely I use the term friend. That's another aspect of my life I need to reconsider. Some of the people I've called friends have shown that they don't have my best interests at heart. A couple folks mentioned therapy in the comments, and I'll admit it's something I've thought about. For the time being I'm allowing myself to heal on my own, but if I don't feel better after a while I'll look into it further. Thank you to everyone who took the time to remark. Your counsel has been quite helpful in sorting everything out. Update 2. February 16, 2025. Sarah has been missing for several weeks and no one has mentioned her in discussion. That is a nice thing. Then last Tuesday, February 11th, I received a direct message from Sarah's mother. She stated she wanted to apologize for her daughter's actions and requested me to call her. I've always had a good relationship with Sarah's parents. They are genuinely lovely individuals. Even during both breakups they were always respectful and never went to. I didn't want to talk about Sarah anymore, but I also didn't want to avoid her. After considering it for a few minutes I decided to phone her. However, if she tried to get me to communicate with Sarah or anything like that I would gently cease the call. When she responded she put me on speaker so Sarah's father could join us. I almost expected to hear Sarah's voice, but thankfully that did not happen. The conversation was actually very good. They began by apologizing for Sarah's recent actions. I quickly informed them there was nothing to apologize for, but they insisted, claiming it was the right thing to do. They also said that they had no idea what was going on until recently. When they found out they called Sarah and had a lengthy conversation with her. Her father confessed that the chat was more appropriate for an adolescent than an almost 30-year-old woman. Sarah vowed that she would stay away from me and seek therapy. I felt relieved not just for myself but also for her. Everything that happened between us was not ideal, but I sincerely wish her the best. I hope she finds happiness. Before we hung up I thanked her parents and expressed how much I admired and respected them. I can now state with certainty that this is over. Sarah would never violate her parents' confidence. Thank you everybody for your advice, it meant a lot. Thank you for watching. For more videos like this, remember to like and subscribe.